One of the things I enjoy doing is shooting video of my RC models at the flying field and of construction of some of my models. Over the years, I've gotten better at that and wanted to share some of the important things you need to consider when shooting your own RC video, whether for sharing with friends, YouTube, or just yourself. It seems I learn something new each time I shoot a new video. These tips apply equally to any topic, not just model airplanes. You may enjoy videoing your kids' t-ball or soccer games, or just documenting a nice family reunion or vacation. Regardless of the subject, here are some ideas to help you get started or help you along the path. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there where you have to ask yourself, what was the person posting the video trying to accomplish? Some of the big errors I see are just posting raw video, poor sound, and several minutes of nothing but a dot in the sky. In this series of videos, we'll discuss some of the easy and fairly cheap things you can do to improve your videos. If you're into YouTube, you know that likes and views are important to search results and building up your account balance if you've chosen to monetize your videos with ads. So getting a bit of a return on your efforts is nice too. In part one of this series, we'll be discussing some of the things you need to think about and plan for before even turning on your camera. Let's get started. The first thing you want to do is to decide on the story the video will tell. Yeah, I know this isn't a major motion picture or a documentary, but you still need to think about why you are shooting the video. If you are shooting a build or assembly log, your purpose is to show others what the model looks like coming out of the box and how it goes together. You'll want to make sure that you understand the assembly yourself by visiting message threads on RC groups or other online discussion forums and reading about what others have said about the model. If you're one of the first to acquire the model, you'll want to study the instructions and do many of the steps as a dry fit to see if things will actually go together as claimed before doing any filming. That way, when it comes time to do the shooting, you'll be confident that everything will work. Try to avoid looking foolish when things just fall apart. If need be, turn off the camera, reset the scene, and start over. One of the things I usually try to envision is whether the steps in the instructions make sense and will not complicate filming. A typical issue here is when the wings are attached to the model. When attached too early in the build, you're always at risk of breaking something or knocking something over when maneuvering the model for a good camera angle. Another common error in the instructions for electric models is mounting the propeller on the model before installing the radio system. That practice is simply unsafe. Point out that you'll be installing the propeller last for safety reasons. If you're changing the sequence, tell your audience that you are and why you are. Another issue is planning the camera positions and angles. Decide beforehand whether you need a high or low angle to show what you're doing. And don't forget that your smiling face doesn't have to be in the frame. Your audience wants to see what you are working on, not you. In the same way, if you are planning on shooting a flying video, determine beforehand what you want your viewers' reaction to be. If the purpose is to demonstrate the flying characteristics of the model, plan your shots to include some close-ups on the ground, some taxiing, along with the takeoff, in-flight maneuvers, and landing. Since you will likely have flown the model before, decide whether you're planning to be critical of or praise the model and plan your shots accordingly. If you're frustrated that it always flips over on landing, get a shot of it doing that. If it does a great inverted spin, film that too. Once you've decided on the flight's maneuver sequence, go over it with your pilot or, if you'll be flying, with your cameraman. I find it's easier to have someone else fly as I'm likely more familiar with my camera. Make sure that you and your pilot understand that this flight is not the typical flight and that you want it flown in closer and without lots of aerobatic maneuvers strung together. I've had more than several occasions where I've spent nearly the entire flight trying to get the model in the frame when the pilot either flew way out on the fringe of the flying area or had the model going every which way, making filming impossible. Same thing with family or sports shots. Predetermine what kind of shots you want and make a list of who you want in them and check them off as you go along. That way there'll be no hard feelings when you discover Uncle Bill was inadvertently left out. As we'll discuss more in the video on cameras, your camera's zoom is both a friend and a foe. A good zoom shot will allow you to fill a significant portion of the frame with the model. There are few things more boring than several minutes of a dot on the screen that someone claims is their model. On the other hand, zoom makes it harder to find and keep the model in the frame. Zoom is a bit like trying to keep the model in sight while looking through a paper towel tube. It's best to settle on a good zoom factor and then quit messing with it. If your project is a bit more complicated, part of your planning should include developing a shot list. This can be done with an Excel spreadsheet with shot numbers and descriptions and angles all specified. On simpler projects, it can just be a list of shots on your phone's note-taking app or a pocket notebook. It's not hard to edit two flights together as one if they are shot just a few minutes apart. Be ready to fly again to get any of the shots you missed on the first flight. Getting missed shots on a subsequent day is much more difficult. Your viewers will notice different sky conditions and lighting. Obviously, they'll notice if you make the flight at a different location. If your Little League video is hitting montage throughout the season, obviously, location doesn't matter. Changes are baked into the plan for the video from the very beginning. If your video includes a bunch of talking, as with a build log, practice what you plan to say before turning on the camera. Have one or two important points for the shot thought out and on the tip of your tongue. You'll thank yourself during editing if your narration is tight. If you want to get a bit more prepared, put the main points on a cue card out of the camera frame. You could have the camera focused on what you're doing and your head and face are out of the shot. No one will notice when you're looking away from time to time. Also, if you plan on longer comments with you looking at the camera, consider building a do-it-yourself teleprompter. It can be hard to remember the technical specifications of a model or other historical background factoids you may want to include. There are lots of examples of building these devices on YouTube. If you already have a small tablet such as an iPad or Android device, the costs are minor. The one I'm using now came in at about $60, including a Bluetooth keyboard I use for other purposes. If you're handy, you can drive the costs down much more. 2 picture frames from the dollar store and a way to mount them to your tripod is just about all you need. In part 2 of this video series, we'll talk a bit about getting some editing software for both audio and video. At the hobbyist level, you can spend anywhere from about $0 to $200 and be pretty well equipped. In follow-on videos, we'll discuss cameras, microphones, and some basic editing tips and resources. Okay, so here's the drill. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the RC Planeviews channel if you'd like to be notified when I post new videos. Oh, and good luck with your videos.